5, that you need to spend a lot of money or resources on training for active shooter events and mass casualty events. Okay. Now, I'm not saying don't do this, but let me, and so I get a lot of, I get a lot of emails about what is your, what's your suggested firearms qualification course? What kind of tourniquets does your team carry? There's not anything wrong with any of that, but I will tell you that in the last 20 years, from 2000 or 19 years, 2019, there were 15 active assailant attacks on churches. So in almost 20 years, out of all the churches, over 300,000 Protestant churches, I don't know how many Catholic churches there are. I don't know how many mosques. I don't know how many synagogues. I'm going to guess that there's about 800,000 houses of worship in the U.S. And in the last 19 years, there's been 15 active assailant attacks. So if I look at actual risk, okay, like the probability of something happening like that in the church, that probability is really low. Now the consequence is high, but the probability of likelihood is really, really low. So, I'll tell you, the leading cause of death in the U.S. is not from somebody getting their leg shut off and bleeding to death in the church hallway. The leading cause of death in the United States is heart disease. Almost 700,000 people a year die from heart disease. The second leading cause of death is cancer, or some sort of an event, because of cancer. And then the third leading cause of death is accidents, slips, trips, and falls, motor vehicle accidents. So those are the things, if it were me, and this is what we do, we put a lot of focus on dealing with those incidents, with someone going into cardiac arrest, with someone slipping and falling, with someone like tripping and maybe treating somebody for shock. Like those are things that you can immediately do as a citizen. I'm not saying don't have tourniquets if you've got the resources. I'm not saying don't do armed response training if you've got the resources to do it, but if it's very limited, then I would put the focus on what the highest risk is, because you're going to get the biggest bang out of your buck for that. And the church sees that is it's a positive thing for the church to see you guys training with AEDs, walking around if somebody trips and falls and going up and conducting some basic first aid and giving somebody a Band-Aid or helping them go sit down. That is a very positive thing for the church to see your ministry doing. This is a worship service. I think it's in Brazil, but you're going to see, they're in worship and people are, praising God, and, it's a wonderful thing. And like, you're going to see this lady right here. She goes into cardiac arrest and dies right here. This is the more likely thing than an active shooter. Someone goes into cardiac arrest and passes out, their heart stops beating, their brain stops functioning, and someone has to go and get an AED or conduct CPR. This is much more likely to occur than the active shooter event.